Hello, and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be talking about a Charli era that several angels, including myself, were very excited for, yet it unfortunately never came to fruition. I've been a Charli fan since forever, so I can't believe it's taken me so long to do a completely Charli dedicated video. But today we are going to be talking about XCX World, which is a scrapped album and era of Charli's, and what exactly happened there. So let's go ahead and get into it. XCX World was intended to be Charli's third studio album. At the time, she had released True Romance and Sucker, and it featured on I Love It and Fancy, both of which were top 10 hits. Her song Boom Clap was inescapable in the summer of 2014. Aside from that, Charli had worked for years to create a loyal and supportive fan base called Angels. XCX World was a fan-given name for the album. Charli began working on it in January of 2015, and it was initially planned for an October 2016 release. Charli said the album would be inspired by Japanese pop and sound like another planet up in the clouds. She also said the album would sound intensely cute. She called it the most pop thing and the most electronic thing she'd ever done. Along with Bloodpop and Stargate, Charli worked with producer Sophie on the album. Charli was especially excited to have Stargate and Sophie on the project because their opposing production styles would make something great. Stargate, Charli claimed, was perfect at editing her ideas into songs. She told Fader, "I know people are going to be like, she wanted to make the album with Sophie and her label said you need to do it with Stargate to make this work. But it was never about putting Sophie in a pop environment and flattening her out. It was knowing they could bounce really well in a room together, working to each other's strengths." Sophie was one of the most, if not the most prominent producer in hyperpop. She always had a way of making music sound sweet yet edgy and substantial and frivolous all at the same time. Truly a musical genius and such a terrible loss. Charli said about their working together, "Sometimes we get aggressive, sometimes we get beautiful. She pushes me and I push her. I'm making beautiful party songs right now and this is just the start." In October of 2015, Charli released Vroom Vroom and said it would be the first song from her new album. Now one of her most popular songs, the Sophie-produced track blends hyperpop with some trap, and the energetic production was supported by Charli's playful yet brash vocal delivery. In most of the songs she talk raps, but she sings the cute and bubbly chorus. The production almost makes Vroom Vroom sound as if it's two songs in one. In early 2016, Charli started her own imprint label, Vroom Vroom Recordings, under her record label Atlantic Records. She claimed the label would be for experimental pop, and it would combine her love for bubblegum pop with mystery and darkness. Honestly, it's the perfect way to describe Charli's music, especially at this time. Vroom Vroom, which ended up being the title track of her next EP, was released through the imprint. The EP also included the songs Trophy, Secret, and Paradise, all of which were produced by Sophie. Personally, this is one of my favorite Charli projects, Secret being my favorite on the EP. Sophie's production pulls you into the songs, and she has this quality of making all parts of the song sound distinct but not disjointed. There are several different layers in each part of the songs, to the point where they sound almost gaudy, but in a very intentional maximalist kind of way. Specifically for Secret, in one moment you might hear bells chiming over the production, and then in another an alarm sounds. Charli's vocals are nearly cartoonish, but in a way that makes the music sound trivial, as if it's light work for her. Basically what I'm saying is there's a lot going on in each song in the EP, but it can be easily overlooked because Charli and Sophie make it seem like they could make these songs in their sleep. When the Vroom Vroom EP came out in April of 2016, Charli still intended for the songs to be on her upcoming album. That same year, A.G. Cook signed on as Charli's creative director and executive producer. A.G. Cook is a producer as well as the founder of music collective PC Music. Currently it's home to artists including Hannah Diamond, Namacinda, and Planet 1999. Artists including Carly Rae Jepsen, Rebecca Black, and Caroline Polachek have all featured on songs produced by PC Music. By August of 2016, Charli announced her album was finished but would now be released in 2017. She also said the album would have two sides, one that was straight up pop and the other that was more club oriented. Charli said she was no longer ashamed of making pop music and wanted her album, which was still untitled, to be the best pop album of 2017. It was more commercial pop than she'd gone in the past, and she didn't want to make love songs this time around because they weren't really fun to party to. Charli wanted this new record to be something to party to and also something that would feel like a party while she was touring it. She acknowledged the challenge ahead, stating it's harder to write respected party music than love songs. Charli said, "It's also this whole thing of it's fun for people to think it's dumb, and people who want to read into it more can really get deep in it." AG pointed out that if a party song is truly good, it could be fun, stupid, progressive, and interesting all at the same time. In October of 2016, Charli released After the Afterparty, now intended to be the album's first single. The track featured Lil Yachty and was an unabashed anthem about partying and living it up. The cover art has the same sleek animated finish as the Vroom Vroom EP, but it's undoubtedly more colorful, a signifier of the brighter pop Charli wanted to make up half the album. The following single, Boys, has a similar bright aesthetic. The song also references partying, but it's mostly about being busy thinking about boys. The track is flirty and frivolous, complete with a little earworm sample from Super Mario. Boys is very tongue-in-cheek and is a dramatization of the stereotype that young girls, especially pop stars, only think about boys and partying. The music video, which Charli directed, used men as eye candy in a similar way that women are typically used in music videos. Some of the famous faces featured included Joe Jonas, Diplo, Khalid, Ezra Koenig, and Charlie Puth. These two singles perfectly achieved Charli's goal of putting out no thoughts head-empty pop music that's still interesting to listen to. They aren't songs you can entirely get lost in, which I don't think Charli wanted, but they're songs that put you in a good mood. They represent the idea that music doesn't always have to be about some intense emotional experience. Likewise, those aren't the only songs that producers should go all out on. Throughout the rest of 2016 and early 2017, Charli performed several songs from her new album live. These included Bounce, Taxi, No Angel, and Roll With Me. No Angel and Roll With Me were the only songs to eventually get an official release. Roll With Me was included on Charli's mixtape, Number 1 Angel, which came out in March of 2017. Charli said she was bored and had a lot of songs, so she decided to put them out. She also wanted to work with other producers and artists creatively, but didn't want them to have to commit to an entire album. Also, she was frustrated with Atlantic for delaying her album and recorded the mixtape without their permission. When she was ready to release Number 1 Angel, the label delayed it by a month. Roll With Me has the same bouncing production as Vroom Vroom. The song sounds light and flirty at some points before the drop at the end of each chorus. It perfectly captures the euphoric feeling of a night out where anything is possible. However, some songs on Number 1 Angel are more serious because Charli claimed that while partying can be cathartic, it can also be lonely. Songs like I Love You Too still sound like party anthems production-wise, but lyrically it's a more vulnerable song. She wrote several of these songs alongside the ones for her third album. Charli said unlike the songs on her upcoming album, Number 1 Angel is more like crying into the champagne than drinking it. At this point, Charli's new album was intended to be released in September of 2017. She revealed in an interview she had completed 2 more songs for the album, Good Girls and Waterfall. Charli described Waterfall as being strip clubby and sexy, but emotional as well. Soon after, Atlantic delayed the album again, now slated for a spring 2018 release. Though Charli said the album was pretty much complete at this point, minor tweaks were still being made and some songs were being swapped for others. A lot of these delays were caused due to conflicts about creative control. Some of the more experimental songs have been cut, and Charli's label continued to encourage her to record some songs by other artists and producers. This is because they wanted the album to have more commercial appeal. One of these songs was Issues, which songwriter Julia Michaels ended up releasing herself. Boys is actually also one of these songs, which still baffles me because it sounds exactly like something Charli would write. But I guess to an extent that's the point. The label can't see the future, but they really missed the opportunity to have an artist ahead of the curve. Charli had always been somewhat avant-garde in her pop, but she had a winning team with Sophie, A.G. Cook, Bloodpop, and Stargate. Hyperpop and noise music didn't really blow up around 2019-2020, and this album was intended to come out about 3 years before that. So a missed opportunity, but obviously the label didn't want to take the risk. In August of 2017, the majority of the songs for the album leaked online. Some of the leaks were snippets or demos of the songs for the album. One of the leaked demos was Sophie's version of After the Afterparty. According to the XCX wiki, the person hired to master the album was also a scammer, which resulted in the leak. It's also been said that Charli's Google Drive was hacked, and the album was released that way, which is the version that Charli has confirmed in interviews. I'm not sure if that's at all related to the mastering scam. In the Popheads thread on Reddit, people nicknamed Charli XCX. After the leak, Atlantic subsequently shoved the album indefinitely, which Charli said was entirely out of her hands. Later, in 2019, she confirmed that the entire time she was working on the album, she hadn't given it an official name because it hadn't entirely materialized by the time it was leaked. In 2021, it was said the album was meant to be called XCX. Several people have made their own track lists and versions of XCX World with the leaked songs that were attached to the project, but it seems like we likely won't ever know what exactly the album would have been like even with the songs out there. I found a Reddit post where a fan created a sort of AU rollout for the album had everything gone to plan, but Charli has said these songs will never get an official release because that time was tainted for her. Charli later said the leak was devastating because her life had been invaded, And despite all of the struggles with her label, she was very clearly excited to put out this record, and that was ruined for her to the point where she felt afraid to even talk about it. She said that she still really likes most of the songs though. The following year, in the summer of 2018, the XCX World photo shoot leaked online. The visuals are saturated and plasticky and perfect for the party pop utopia that Charli had in mind. The glimpses of the era from the single covers materialize in the shoot, showing Charli had this almost Barbie-like futuristic world in mind. The photos appear silly and vapid at first, until one considers the amount of work and editing it takes to construct these images, much like the way Charli's music is viewed by some. Even just looking at the visuals from the shoot, this would have been the album of the summer, I fear. Charli had planned to shoot music videos for the album soon after, but it was leaked and shelved before this could happen. Charli later posted this photo to Instagram, confirming it was the intended cover for the album. Another frustrating thing about this album being scrapped is how great it seems the rollout and promo would have been. It seemed that Charli and her team had something more interactive and immersive than the traditional rollout in mind. An entire XCX mega brand and universe were planned to promote the album. Online campaigns were planned, as well as more live performances for Charli. The potential promo was also said to include after parties for fans. After the album was scrapped, Charli decided to pretty much start fresh with her next album, which was her self-titled record. Her experience with the leak affected Charli's approach to this album. She told the Evening Standard, "I've just understood what I want as a person and an artist, which is not necessarily commercial success at all costs, and not any desire to fit in." Prior to self-titled, Charli released another mixtape, Pop 2, at the end of 2017. It has some of the hyperpop elements Charli used with XCX World. Pop 2 was her last work with Sophie. Track 10 contains parts of Blame It On Your Love, which was initially intended for the scrapped album. Later, a full version of the song featuring Lizzo would be included on the self-titled album. Originally, Charli wanted to release it as the A-side to Girls' Night Out, yet this didn't happen. Girls' Night Out and No Angel were repackaged as singles, which Charli released in the summer of 2018. That summer, she released at least one single each month. These singles were 5 in the Morning, Focus, No Angel, and Girls' Night Out. I love all these singles. Even though they kind of stick out in Charli's discography, her discography would have been more fluid in this era had she actually gotten to create an album out of these singles. These singles were followed by 1999, which was the lead single from Charli's self-titled album. And I do feel like Number One Angel and Pop 2 are strong enough showings to confirm this would have been a good album, and that's aside from the leaks. Some have said XCX World would have been Charli's best album, while others have said it would have been her weakest. But I think this era, had it materialized, would have been good for Charli, especially considering her insecurities around pop music. This album would have been pop for pop's sake, and just fun and party-like and unserious, but in all of the best ways. And had it done well, even just with her fans, it probably would have assuaged Charli's fears about making less emotional and more commercial songs. But at the end of the day, Charli said the whole experience made her realize she didn't want to go completely mainstream, so I'm sure she's fine with that now, and her fans definitely are too. Of course, Charli didn't abandon pop after this whole ordeal, though she has returned to writing a lot more introspective, cathartic pop songs. Often the production is still upbeat, electronic, and hyperpop influenced, but the lyrics usually aren't about partying and throwing caution to the wind. Her most recent album, Crash, is actually a deviation from the hyperpop sound, which caught some fans off guard. The record is more 80s inspired, and throughout all the synths, 808s, and electronic production, several of the songs are about love and heartbreak. While touring for Crash, Charli has performed several of the scrapped songs from XCX World at some point or other.
You know, it's a fucking cute song. It's really cute, and that's why I play it at the beginning of the set. That's why I play all of those songs that I made with Sophie before I come on stage. Hold on. Because the album did come out. It's a great album. It got leaked, which was shit. But I love that music, and I like that you guys get to hear it, and it's kind of a part of my culture as an artist that, you know, you guys know all the words to those songs, but they didn't even make it out. It used to be really stressful, but now it's kind of funny, and I'm in on the joke, you know, with it, I'm giving you that. But sometimes I get really emotional when people yell taxi, taxi, but I get really sad, you know, because that was a song that we loved together, and it was a song I never got to have the life that it was supposed to have. And, you know, I'm not going to take anyone's constant experience away from them. That's not my fucking style. You can do whatever you want at my shows as long as it comes from a place of love. But I just wanted to come and explain to you why sometimes It's really hard, you know, to hear that.
Some of the songs, like Taxi and Come to My Party, she performed during some of the virtual sessions during quarantine when she was promoting How I'm Feeling Now. It seems like Charli enjoys performing these songs when she's in the mood, but doesn't want to deal with all the stress and bureaucracy of releasing and promoting them, which makes sense. And as she said herself, some of those songs still make her emotional because they didn't get to live their full life due to the leak. But she understands a lot of her fans still like to hear them. Charli's work with Sophie is always going to be some of my favorite music of hers, and I love all of the singles in this era, even the leaked ones, and so it's really sad for me, and for Charli obviously, that it didn't get to fully materialize into an era for her, because she was really excited for this album to come out. And like I said, even though this wasn't a full era, we still got some awesome Charli work in the interim, like the Vroom Vroom EP and Number One Angel. I used to listen to Pull Up, like that 3 a.m. song, every single day when I was walking to college, because Charli's music, especially her little hyperpop music, it makes you walk fast, so. And I know it's a pretty small consolation for what Charli went through in this era, but a lot of her fans still love this music and are very proud of it, and none of us blame her for what happened. It's her label, and it's whoever decided to leak her music. And you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here because people are going to do what they're going to do, but oftentimes when you leak music, it's not just a little spoiler, it's not just, ooh, the music is out a little bit early. You can ruin an entire era, an entire album, an entire tour by leaking music, especially once the music's already out there and people are downloading it. A lot of labels are going to consider that the music is no longer profitable anymore because people already have their hands on it. And I don't really know anything that's going on currently specifically with the XCX World Google Drive. While I was researching, I saw that it had been taken down because people were saying that, or maybe there's a Discord for it now, so I'm not really sure where that music is now, but I'm sure some of you guys know, so definitely let us know in the comments. I'm not saying to share it, but just, you know, does it exist anymore? But of course, be sure to let me know your thoughts on XCX World, or at least what we got of it. Let me know your thoughts on the Vroom Vroom EP. Let me know your thoughts on Number One Angel, Pop 2. You know what? Let me know your thoughts on Charli's music in general, because I could talk about it for days. As always, thank you all so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter so that you can keep up with me there. And if you would like to become a channel member, the link is in the video's description. Again, thank you so very much for watching. I love you so very much, and I will see you so very soon. Bye-bye.